you were unable to communicate with somebody? What if the English language did not have a writing system? It would make it very difficult to learn English. Well, this was a way of life for the Cherokee Indians. They did not have a writing system or a way to learn and communicate with each other. So when Indians of different tribes would assemble, they would use sign language to communicate. Until a man by the name of Sequoyah invented the Cherokee alphabet, making it possible for people to learn the Cherokee language. Like many of you, I have Indian heritage also, and one of the many people who learned to speak the Cherokee language with the help of Sequoyah was my great-grandfather Otten. In an interview with my grandmother, Geneva Schaefer, she told me a story about my great-grandfather and how learning to speak the Cherokee language saved his life. One day he was working on a fence, and he served as a sort of guardian for the Cherokee people because he knew how to speak English and the Cherokee language. And an Indian got upset with him and came up to with a gun while he was working on this fence and threatened to kill him that day. And if my great-grandfather didn't learn the Cherokee language, he would have gotten shot and killed. He talked his way out of the situation using the Cherokee language. So without Sequoyah's spectacular invention, he would have lost his life that day. So this morning I would like to share with you a little background about Sequoyah himself, him actually creating the alphabet, and the effects that the alphabet had. So first, I would like to begin by telling you about Sequoyah. And I'd like to start off by sharing a quote from the book Sequoyah by Grant Foreman. It says, "Sequoyah is celebrated as an Indian genius, who solely from the resources of his mind endowed a whole tribe with learning. The only man in history to conceive and perfect in its entirety an alphabet or syllabary." Sequoyah was born in the village of Tuskegee in Tennessee in about 1776. Now, Sequoyah is considered one of the greatest Indian heroes of all time, but to my surprise, he was only half Indian. His mother belonged to the Red Paint Clan in Tennessee, and his father was a white explorer by the name of Nathaniel Gist that left around the time Sequoyah was born, so he did not know his father. Sequoyah's name meant the lame one in the Cherokee language. This was because he had a weak and a short leg. Now, I don't really know if he was born this way or if it was an accident. The books kind of aren't too sure on that. But he also had an English name, George Guest, and according to David Peterson, in the book Sequoyah, Father of the Cherokee Alphabet, his last name is probably just a misspelling of his father's name, Gist. Sequoyah grew up and he had many talents as a boy. He loved to carve, draw, make things out of silver, and he used these talents to support his family when he grew older. He was a trader, a farmer, he was a blacksmith, he liked making things out of copper and silver, and he would trade these items. Sequoyah later joined the U.S. Army under General Andrew Jackson in 1812 to fight the British troops and the Creek Indians. And during this time, when he was fighting in the war, this is where his spark actually was established in wanting to create an alphabet for his people, because he saw all the white soldiers reading military lists and receiving letters from their family and friends, and he wanted his people to have this opportunity also. So now I'd like to talk with you about him actually creating the syllabary. After the war, he returned home, and at first, when he first started work on the syllabary, he decided he was going to use signs and symbols for every word in the Cherokee language, which if we did that for the English language, we would have too many signs and symbols to remember. So he soon figured this out, and he decided to use the same symbols for the same sounds in different words. And Lily Patterson explains this very clearly. She is the author of The Cherokee Who Captured Words. And she says, "An alphabet has a sign for any one of the tiny sounds that makes up a word. Each letter stands alone, whereas a syllabary has a sign for each spoken symbol." And Patterson gives us a great example. She says there is an important city in Tennessee that has the Cherokee name Chattanooga. Now, it was spelled with 11 English letters, but only 4 of Cherokee's syllables would be used to spell this city. So therefore, the Cherokee alphabet is called a syllabary because each character represents a syllable. During this time Sequoyah was working on this, he worked very long and hard. He started to get scorned and ridiculed by his people. They thought he was crazy, including his wife. She got very upset and threw all of his hard work into a fire. So he had to start completely over. But although Sequoyah continued his work, he used many English letters. He couldn't read or write English. He could speak some English, but he used English letters and signs and symbols that he made himself to create the syllabary. Of course, each syllable or symbol had its own speech sound. So in 1821, after about 12 years of work on the syllabary, it was complete. And he decided to present the syllabary to the Cherokee Tribal Council with his daughter in about 1821 also. And after, they thought it was a hoax at first, and they really didn't believe him, and he had to prove that it was the real deal. And so he got it approved, and it became the Cherokee writing system. So now I'd like to talk with you about the effects the Cherokee syllabary had. First, on February 21st, 1828, the first issue of the Cherokee Phoenix came out in Georgia. Now this was the first national bilingual newspaper. There was also Cherokee magazines, Bibles. They could capture their own laws on paper, educational materials. Cherokee children were able to go to school and actually learn Cherokee now. They were able to capture their own words, songs, stories, poems, and prayers on paper. And according to Lily Patterson, people were able to read about their own customs, celebrations, weddings, and other events. So today we have talked about Sequoyah. I've given you a little background about him actually creating the alphabet, and the effects the alphabet had. Today, only about 10% of the Cherokee can speak their own language. Therefore, Sequoyah's syllabary makes sure the Cherokee language is not forgotten. Sequoyah gave the Cherokee people a gift that will last forever.